Hi. How are you? I'm doing really well. Uh, some more things are coming together for me. Uh, it, if you'll notice, if you'll watch the Tricinas, the Mayan Tricinas, you'll notice that toward the end, when you get into the double digits, it's a time of things quite naturally coming together. It's like there's a flow from the heart of cosmos or from the heart of galaxy. Uh, or universe that does that, and I find it very beautiful. Um, the crystal. This is something that I wrapped. I didn't do the choker, but you'll just have to pardon, I hope, the real. I couldn't have lived in a better place than Arkansas. I mean, you can go to the crystal mines here and you can find these things. It used to be that you could take a car full of people and for $10 you could carry away all you could carry away in the car. It's the tailings of the mine. So, you're digging amongst what the miners have rejected, but it's fun all the same. And so I have an overabundance of crystal, and I have no apologies for that. All right, now I'm here again because I'm still high on this whole thing with the purpose of living. But there was one more little detail. What was it? Oh, I keep talking about it being 2, 3, 4 a.m. and there I am journaling and wide awake and so full of energy. Several of you have no doubt already figured this out when I explained to you that I was working with both sound therapy and light therapy. And I'm finding now that I have to be quite careful that it really does charge me up. It's still too early to know a heck of a lot, but I'm feeling really good about Mellon Thomas's biophoton therapy unit called Dream Spa. He even has a little YouTube site for it where you can see it and see what it does. And I'm really tickled about that. When your body is starting out with a deficit to begin with, it's just so grand to think that not only can you be keeping up, I mean, we're doing well when we're over 40, to keep up with the health and the nutrition that the body needs. There are organs and things that begin to calcify or disintegrate, if you will, to go offline in our 20s and in our 30s. And so to think that not only with a unit like this, or you can get this kind of therapy at a spa, you can not only keep up with what's being depleted, but you can actually recharge the battery almost as if you're turning the clock back. Now, I know some people do this in order to have like a rejuvenation, a youth kind of a thing. I don't care about youth. I care about health. And I want the body happy. I want it at its optimum so that we can be a good team here to be in this flow that I am delighted to be discovering is the heart of all things 3D. I have the sense that just as we have a life review when we lay down the body, we have a planning and a previewing that goes on before an incarnation. And we've got spiritual guides, all of us do. They follow us down through many, many lifetimes. I really appreciate the work of Dr. Michael Newton and all of those who follow in his footsteps on life between lives and on working with people in the between life state and really examining that through hypnotherapy as carefully as possible. And so much has been learned by that. In an earlier journal, I don't know when, I remember sharing with you Robert, I think it's Morning Sky, a Native American dancer who has a beautiful heart. And his tribe, actually his grandfather, was involved in helping to rescue one of the star beings or ancestors. I'm not sure how they're called among the Native Americans. It doesn't seem right to call them aliens or ETs. That's so cold, you know. I'm thinking most of those guys that are running around up there are relatives, friends. We have some really mixed DNA running around in the human genome. They're not talking to us about that, but it's in there. And so, at any rate, Robert shares what this star being told the tribe, told his grandfather, once he regained sufficient health to share with them. And he tells the story, I think, of Enki and Enlil and all of that kind of thing. And so that's interesting. Now, I bring him up only because he's the first one that I ever heard say, don't go into the light. And he has his own reason, you know. He says, based on what the star being told his grandfather and was passed down to him, that it's part of a trap in order to keep us enslaved on the other side. Well, friends, I'm really open. As we cultivate emptiness, you'll find yourself considering things that once upon a time you would have absolutely scoffed at, turned away from, or laughed at. But as we lose some of the ego that goes along with that, and some of the arrogance in thinking that we know so very much, that we know anything, we'll be open to things like that, things that we otherwise might not have been. And so I guess I left that in my heart over a period of, I'd say 3 to 5 years. I learned about it a while back and I just didn't know, and I filed it away. I bring it up now because I recently watched a presentation done on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And it isn't just a reading of that. It's a drama. It's a story in, I don't know where it is, Ladakh. I'm not sure where it is. Up in the snowy mountains for sure, where someone is dying and the Lama goes to read the book to him for a period of a number of days. I forget how many. 47, something, a long time. And one of the things that was said, so you don't get to hear the whole book being read, but one of the things that was said was that when we cross, what we will first be presented with is like a mirror of ourself. It will look like it's other things and other beings, creatures. And the challenge is to recognize the self in that. And that would be a really good thing. That would be someone toward the end of their incarnating, able to see self in what was being demonstrated. And If we don't see that this is self, if we continue to wander and not be settled down and be uncomfortable, I think they say it takes about 47 days for the soul to reincarnate. And so they're trying to read this soul through that period with the sacred text in order that that one will either stop incarnating, transcend it, or will take to themselves the best incarnation possible the next time. And so somewhere along the way, when the soul hasn't seen that these images were itself, it gives a warning. It says there is a soft white light that's presented. And they said, don't go into that. If you do, you will incarnate as a god, but it's a god that dies. And so I'm not sure, I didn't pause it, I didn't write it down. I'm not too much into the mental way of doing things. I'm doing good to be able to report this much to you. I will go back and find a link to this video so that you can watch it for yourself. That was the closest thing, the only thing that I found in this presentation of what the death experience is like in the Tibetan culture. The only, Vesica Pisces, the only thing in common with what we're used to seeing in the West. And I don't think it's the same thing, because it might be, but they said a soft, kind of like a diffuse white light. And I think most of the people that have seen this white light, it's neither soft nor diffuse. It's brilliant. And so, I don't know. All right, so what they're seeing, I will carry it back this way and say, sometimes people see hell or a dark, a very difficult experience, and they have some hellish things going on. I'm going to say that this is just exactly what the Lama said. This is yourself, objectified, as if it's not you. But what you're doing is objectifying your own beliefs. And thus there is this experience. Remember, we don't have, our conscious mind is like the tip of the iceberg. I think generously it's 10 or 15% of the fullness of mind. I'm not talking brain here, I'm talking mind. And so it's my understanding that the bulk of our beliefs are buried in the subconscious. That means they're not accessible to us consciously. We really don't know what our deepest beliefs are. And you can prove that to yourself just by looking at the events of your life, and you'll find some big event that happens, and you'll find yourself thinking, acting, or speaking in some way that surprises you. And it's because there were beliefs that weren't brought up until you were in a situation where they were relevant. And so we really don't know the self. And I was surprised to find this out, how challenging it is just to sit down and make a list of what are my most important beliefs. Well, I can't do that. All I can do is write down those that are consciously accessible to me. And we were all programmed when we were little. And so all that programming got in there before we were fully formed and able to say thanks but no thanks. I don't think I like that one. You can keep that belief. I'll live my life without it. Most of us as children, at least in my day and age, weren't so together that we would do that. I'm hearing a lot now about today's youth that they are much more self-possessed, independent. than we were, and I'm mightily glad to hear it. And I'm hoping that they're not letting themselves be programmed, that they're not buying into it. Anyway, all right, so what we're seeing in life, even in our conscious everyday life, is also based on our beliefs. But that can be hard to swallow. It's just like being told that an atom is 99.17 nines after the decimal percent empty. Nothing is really here. And the fact that we're seeing this whole stuff and the interplay of it all around us, I think has very much more to do with software than it does with anything that really exists, any kind of hardware. I have no problems at all considering that this is most likely a virtual reality. But anyway, sorry about that. Okay, why are we here? I wanted to come, I'm just feeling so wonderful about that. So let's just say that before we incarnate, we have a meeting, and it's said that we get to do some previewing of just the major events in the life that we're getting ready to lead. And those are hidden away from our memory, of course. I mean, there's a lot of things I wouldn't have done if I knew what was ahead of me and how hard it would be and how it would make me feel like it almost broke me to go through it. And so it's better that we don't know consciously. I mean, I think we're going to find that out more and more. As the veils are lifted, I think we're going to be able to see how very sensible it was that at least some of them were there. Okay, so we've got to say once again, who am I? What am I? Now, if you've been with my journals more than 5 minutes, you know the body and the mind are not the answer. Nothing in 3D is the answer to our identity. We have our pinky toe here in this embodiment, and that's it. It's kind of like the conscious mind. You know, we have access to only just a smidgen of the whole. Now, let's stop resisting this. Can you do that with me? Can you let go? Can you consciously let go of resisting the fact that you don't know? Now, this is huge. This will lead you to emptiness, and it will lead you to peace. We're resisting life all the time. Watch yourself for a day or even an hour with real focused awareness. Observe yourself for an hour and watch the several ways you find where you're resisting life. We all do it. It's just programmed in. It's not a bad thing. It's just how it is. Actually, I'm going to flip it around on you and I'm going to say it's a good thing. Can you be open to that? Not if you're in the mind. If you'll be in heart, you will find that you can flip things upside down, inside out, backwards, all over the place, and you can be fine with it as long as you're in heart. Mind flips out because mind really wants things to be solid and stable, and it wants to be right, and it wants to know things and the answers to all the questions and all that. Well, just, tell it to go take a hike, go walk around the block and give you some peace, just for a while, so that you can ponder. Mind adds nothing to it. So be in heart. Everything that happens to you is a blessing. Everything. And that means if somebody robs you, burns your house down, or blows something up, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Even if your body gets blown up in the explosion, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It isn't you. It's a game. Stay out of the mind, strictly 100% out of the mind. Do your best. You don't have to fight the mind. You don't have to shut it up. It's just that when you see it, you just turn back around and focus on heart. It's that easy. No fighting. No resisting. We're not resisting anymore. We're going into peace now. We've been battered and bruised and soaked in suffering long enough. It's over. You want it to be over? It's over. Make that choice. Stay in heart. You are divine. It's not easy to take that on, to accept it. It's really not. I know. I've had a hell of a time with it. Everything in you wants to fight it, especially if you've got a few dozen, monks and nuns and ascetics off in mountain caves somewhere. It's a challenge. We have all these impressions about what a human is. Well, guess what, honey? You're not human. You're a being. The human is the car. It's like the car you drive. So if a human is like this or that, that's not talking about you. The real you. The real you is divine, and it's accessed through your center. You call it what you will. Your center, your being. I call it heart with a capital H to distinguish it. It's not the heart chakra. It's not the organ. It's just a special portal that I find when I put my concentration, my focus on the middle of my chest. Not concentration, just focus. So we're divine. But we've been convinced that we're these little puny human things. And we have this little puny history and origin. And that we're subservient. We were created to be miners for gold, for ETs from somewhere else. I mean, come on. We know that star beings have been here throughout the history of the earth. There's records in the rocks that couldn't be cut up and put in the Vatican Library and hidden away. Okay, it's carved into the history of Egypt and Sumer and all the rest of it, Babylon. So we know they've been here. We know that there's been crossbreeding. However it happened, whether it was through direct interaction, these beings know how to manipulate DNA. So we don't know. We can't trust a single thing we've been told, because it was all part of the game that we'd be so thoroughly lied to that we would spend thousands of years chasing our tails. Or like the Ouroboros, the snake, eating its tail, going around in circles. Well, that's over. All those who want it to be over, raise your hand and say, it's over. It starts with a choice. It really does. I don't know where this stuff is coming from, but I know the feel of heart flow, and it's solid, and I know to trust it. So, when we've got you, your soul, whatever, and your spiritual guides, or a counselor, whatever it is, looking at what's going to be your next incarnation, I'm still going to say that's not the higher self that I am. The higher self that I am is presently coordinating probably tens of thousands of embodiments, lifetimes all over the place, and not just human ones either. All there is now. It's all just now. And the way you navigate the now, you can find out from Nancy Dennison, from Mellon Thomas Benedict, from those who have had the more extensive near-death experiences. It's whatever you think of. Anita Moorjani is an excellent story. Dying to Be Me is her book. And so she has some interviews with that name. Everything is now. Everything is now. So all of your lifetimes are now. That's how accessible they are to you. It's like if you're going to have a meeting with your daughter's teacher and principal Monday at 2. You don't have to wait till Monday at 2. You can go into heart and be quiet, and you can go to that time and you can have a look. And you can also communicate higher self to higher self. We're not limited the way we've been taught. The way we've been taught, though, has put blinders on us. And so, some would say, unfortunately, I think I might ditch that word entirely. So we have to spend some time mining the subconscious and clearing out the old beliefs that are in the way, that are blocking our vision, our ability to see, our ability to shift perspective, our ability to accept the wild sounding as at least being possible, at least being worthy of a look. What are we so afraid of? There are so many things we've been taught to fear. And it's nonsense. It really is. And so much of it is based on the false assumption of who and what I am, of who and what you are. So when you say, what is my purpose in this life, you be sure who the my is that we're talking about. Because the body will have a purpose, the mind will have a purpose, the soul, the being will have a purpose, the higher, come on. We're going nowhere. And if we don't start by defining who am I, because as soon as you even shift your definition of who am I, you've got to recalibrate everything, because it changes all the answers. It just changes things. And so you'll find me reaching for the very highest, even beyond what I can conceive, and working to answer from there. Because I'm not accepting anything less. I'm really tired of the 3D thing, tired of feeling compelled, and so I'm throwing it off. We'll see how far I get with that, won't we? But what am I afraid of? In a cosmos built entirely on love, where the whole heart and soul of everything, the answer to every question is love. Is there some kind of a God that's going to harm me for exploring? Hello. So if I want to get way out with some ideas and test them, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to have a really good time while I'm at it. So I'm encouraging everyone to start throwing off the chains and the shackles and all the rest of it. I've got an interesting thing going on when it comes to that. I don't know, because I don't have memories of any incarnation that goes with this. But I do know that right around my neck, about a couple or 3 inches, there's a feeling all the time. Now, I don't normally, I just put this on today. I just put this together today. I never had these things together. medicinally, if you will. It's like again and again and again, I will reach up as if I'm wearing something here, and I'm not, but I feel the weight of it. And I've asked Ken about this, and he mentioned, I think he called it a shackle. I don't know. But I got the impression that it was a record from a lifetime. Now, if we're going to have records from lifetimes, it will be things that are unresolved. Anything that we've resolved is not going to be bothersome to us. So if it's bothersome, it's, it makes sense. And so maybe there's a record that's up to be worked through where I was a slave. And it's hard to imagine, but it's been easier for me to imagine what that's like because I've had the sense of wearing this thing that was always, always, always there. Now, we've all walked a dog. I've even walked a cat. Some cats are cooperative that way. And when they'll run to the end of the leash too hard and by the length of the leash they'll get jerked back. That's Cuddles, by the way. That's the first time we've managed to see him in the film. He's a big one. And so just to imagine someone having, as it were, a collar, shackle around another human being and jerking a human being around that way. Wow. We're so spoiled, especially in North America, and in the West in general, and in the day and age where we live. I will share with you, I've been listening a lot lately to the interviews of Mellon Thomas Benedict about his near-death experience for two reasons. One, because it's so tremendously extensive. There's not one that's more extensive simply because he goes back into the light daily. And so that's the kind of thing I want to pick up, is what he finds out in the light. And because although he went into his NDE with a terrible attitude about man and how we were just a cancer and destroying the earth, his NDE absolutely showed him that his vision was wrong. There just wasn't anything right about that it was a story. See, we've been told stories, just like we tell our children nursery rhymes and bedtime stories. All the adults on the planet have been fed chock full of stories as well. Only we got them from the news and from our education and the rest of it. I'm sorry, folks. When you're waking up, you're going to find out you have been lied to in every possible way. And most of it is carried on from so far behind the scenes that it's not your parents, it's not your teachers, it's not your physician. It's not anyone you know intentionally lying to you, because they were duped in their day as well. And just take it back through the generations and the parents, And so for whatever reason, that's the kind of a setup we have here. Everybody breathe deeply, lighten up. It's no big deal. And I suggest it's much healthier if it's looked at as a game. And we're all role-playing here. And we have our reasons. Okay, we forgot our reasons. Oh well, they'll come to us eventually. Everything's built on love. Everything is made of nothing but love. You're being loved in every moment of every day. I don't care what it looks like. If it's built on love, that's all it can be. Just like those atoms that are empty, they'll kill you. They'll take you right out of incarnation if you run yourself, and have a head-on collision with those empty atoms. They seem to be really solid, but we know they're not. Well, how about we have that as both sides of the coin for this? And how about we spend a lot of retreat time in our heart where people can't really see us in there. They really don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but we're exploring. We're shifting perspective. We're looking at things differently, and we're saying, what if? What if she's right? You know? What if I really am divine? Okay? So we want to lighten up. There's no blame. As soon as we get into blame or criticism or any of that, we go straight into the mind and out of the heart. The more time we spend in heart, the better our journey will be. And I've just gone on entirely too long here, and so I'm going to stop. Good day.